Part 59. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Depeng. Chapter 586. Swish, swish, swish. Heads fell to the ground, and a large number of players quit the game. Chen Ronghuo drove the flying sword and quickly moved through the Xian mountains. When he encountered a small group of players, he would swing his sword and kill dozens of people every time. If there was time, he would swing a few more swords to kill everyone without leaving any armor. If there was no time, he would escape immediately after one strike, without any dragging. As for encountering a large group of players, this is impossible. With the ancient book, he would avoid them before encountering a large group of players. He even made a mess of the layout of the God-slaying alliance in the Xian mountains through layers of deductions and left and right attacks, making it difficult to form an effective encirclement. However, because of the shortage of manpower, facing this situation, the God-slaying alliance was worried that Chen Ronghuo would leave the combat state, but they did not dare to integrate more people into those teams consisting of dozens of people. As a last resort, they could only divide the teams consisting of dozens of people into teams consisting of 10 people. In this way, they can not only ensure a certain deterrence to Chen Ronghuo, but also expand the coverage. Chen Ronghuo will be blocked after a short time and will not leave the combat state. At the same time, another benefit is that it can prevent Chen Ronghuo from killing dozens of people at one time. Of course, some people in the God-slaying alliance always believe that all this is only temporary. As more and more people come to support them from various cities, no matter how strong Chen Ronghuo is, he will eventually fall into their huge number. They want to see what Chen Ronghuo can do when hundreds of thousands of people or even more people gather in the Xian mountains, and each team responsible for besieging Chen Ronghuo has hundreds of people. But before everything is ready, they still have to support Chen Ronghuo. Take out a large number of players for Chen Ronghuo to kill. Swish. The sword flashed. After Chen Ronghuo killed 5 players with one sword, he saw that the other 5 players in the 10-man team all ran away, and he was helpless. Now the players of the God-slaying alliance have all learned a lot, and it is not easy to kill them. Not only did they divide the original team of dozens of people into teams of 10, but the players in each team of 10 were dozens of meters apart. In this way, it was difficult for him to kill all 10 people at once. At the same time, Chen Ronghuo turned around, looked into the distance, and uttered 2 words softly. Trouble. In the distance, the tens of thousands of players who had followed him all the way from Xian City before, only hundreds of them were able to catch up with him during his fast flying sword. But these hundreds of people were all third-level players. Among them, there were 5 quintuplet girls who could actually combine and condense each other's soul power to perceive at a super long distance. Even though he was very fast, he still couldn't get rid of these players because he had to deal with some players he met on the road every once in a while, which delayed his time. Now, the existence of these players has somewhat limited his killing speed in the Xian mountains. However, hundreds of players of the same level as him gathered together, and no matter how bold he was, he dared not easily seize the edge. It seems that I have to expose more of my tricks. Exhaling lightly, Chen Ronghuo's mind moved, and 2 sword lights suddenly split out, turning into wings and landing on his shoulders. At the same time, he used the means of the Chaos Warlock to condense the breeze on the 2 sword lights. The 2 sword lights turned into the wind sword wings. With a slight vibration, the wind sword wings fluctuated with layers of light and shadow, making his already extremely fast speed even more terrifying. Swish. With the speed increased, Chen Ronghuo's figure blurred in the original place and appeared in another place. How is it possible? Behind him, the 5 quintuplets sensed Chen Ronghuo's sudden speed increase, and their bodies were all shaken, revealing incredible expressions. Even the secret technique God sense they performed together became a little unstable. Chen Ronghuo's speed was already fast enough. but compared to now, it is nothing. The speed Chen Ronghuo showed at this time, I am afraid he can already catch up with the general 4th level cultivator. What's going on? Seeing the 5 people like this, Yi Tianmu, the temporary commander in charge of the operations in the Xi'an Mountains in the game, frowned. The god suddenly accelerated, and the speed is almost comparable to that of ordinary 4th level cultivators. We lost him. The 5 girls said ashamedly. What? Yi Tianmu's face changed. Don't quit the game. He clenched his fists and trembled slightly. If Chen Ronghuo quit the game immediately after leaving the combat state, and then logged in again, he would definitely appear in the position when he quit the game. But in this case, the possibility of Chen Ronghuo using his real body to log into the game next time would definitely be very small. But what Yi Tianmu didn't know was that Chen Ronghuo had no intention of quitting the game now. He used the Qingfeng sword wings to get rid of the pursuit of the people behind him, and immediately started killing faster in the Stone Rock Mountains. In fact, it was not that he could not use the secret technique of Qingfeng sword wings at the beginning, but the more trump cards he kept, the greater the benefits he could get. Time passed quickly as Chen Ronghuo killed again and again. The God-slaying alliance was extremely angry about Chen Ronghuo's killing. All the cities close to Xi'an City had been mobilized, and even players in some cities farther away began to move to Xi'an City. Finally, after consciously gathering enough people, a large number of teams of 200 to 300 people, or even more people, appeared in the Xi'an Mountains. And each team must have at least 20 to 30 third-level players. Of course, in addition to this, the God-slaying alliance still has a large number of single or small team players in the Xi'an Mountains to prevent Chen Ronghuo from leaving the combat state. It's time to start some big actions. Chen Ronghuo, who knew all the actions of the God-slaying alliance through the ancient book, finally felt the pressure at this time. At this time, the number of people gathered by the God-slaying alliance in the Xi'an Mountains was probably as many as hundreds of thousands. Facing the siege of so many players, even if he had the ancient book, he didn't have much time left. Then, his eyes flickered slightly. After deducing some information from the ancient book, Chen Ronghuo immediately used the invisibility technique to hide his figure, and then flew to a dense forest at the fastest speed. Swish! After flying into the dense forest, Chen Ronghuo immediately turned into a green light and merged himself into a big tree. Wood escape technique. One of his trump cards that he had kept hidden until now. Soon after Chen Ronghuo had just escaped into the big tree, a huge team of 300 or 400 people came running in the distance. Looking at their route, if they did not change direction halfway, these players would definitely pass by the big tree that Chen Ronghuo had escaped into. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 587. Shock, the God-slaying alliance and the gods have been fighting for such a long time, but there is still no result. Can the gods really fight against the entire gods alliance on their own? It is impossible to fight against the entire gods alliance, but this time the gods alliance has at least dispatched hundreds of thousands of players. So many players rushed in, and there is still no result after such a long time, which shows that the gods are really strong. The players on the forum were talking about it. After Chen Ronghuo left the gate of Xi'an City, there was no real-time video or photo of him. So everyone was speculating and didn't know what the result was now. Especially those former gods, who were more concerned about Chen Ronghuo's condition. And as time dragged on, the haze in their hearts became deeper. Putting themselves in his shoes, if they were replaced by Chen Ronghuo, they felt that they would never be able to hold on for so long in the siege of so many players. Xi'an Mountains. This mountain range that stretches for hundreds of miles is mostly made of rocks, and the wild monsters living in it are mostly wild monsters with earth and stone attributes. But occasionally, there will be a few forests, adding a touch of green to this area. A team of 300 or 400 players rushed from a hillside. Seeing the small forest in front, they had no intention of avoiding it. Just received news that the god's kneeling is not far from here. Everyone speed up and must not let him run away. Captain, don't worry. When I see the god's kneeling, I will definitely let him taste the power of my flying moon meteor hammer. Let him see whether his head is harder or my big iron hammer is harder. A tall and burly man laughed. The team of hundreds of people around him gave him a great sense of security. Although Chen Ronghuo was described as very strong, from previous battles, Chen Ronghuo could only destroy a team of 100 people at most every time he took action. As for teams with more than 100 people, Chen Ronghuo never provoked them. So, bragging is not against the law. Bragging will not cost you your life. So what's the problem with bragging? The group hurried on their way. However, the 30 or 40 third-level practitioners did not fly into the air, but gathered together to occupy the center of the team. This position can ensure their safety. According to the information description, even a third-level player can't last long in Chen Ronghuo's hands. And for the time being, they probably don't need to face Chen Ronghuo head-on. They just need to make this team look like a mighty army, so that Chen Ronghuo will turn around and flee in embarrassment after seeing it. In this way, it won't take long before they can use multiple teams of this size to block Chen Ronghuo in the middle, so that Chen Ronghuo can no longer escape. The current experience value can allow me to upgrade all professions to level 37 in one breath. If I can succeed this time, it won't be a problem to upgrade all professions to level 38. Using the wood escape technique, Chen Ronghuo escaped into a big tree and watched the players of the God-killing alliance flying past him. The eyes hidden in the trees gradually became as sharp as a sword. MMP, isn't it said that Xi'an City is like summer all year round? Why do I suddenly feel a little cold? Could it be that the gods are kneeling in the dark and spying on us? A third-level magic player with keen perception could not help but mutter to himself when he passed by the tree where Chen Ronghuo was, looking around and suspicious. The burly man who had said before that he would use his flying moon meteor to hammer Chen Ronghuo's head heard this and laughed out loud. Haha, I think you are scared by the gods kneeling. There are so many of us, and he is only one. Does he dare to attack us? If he dares to attack us, I will. Just. Without any sign, an extremely cold feeling suddenly hit his heart. No, not his heart, but his neck. For some reason, the big man suddenly felt a chill under his neck, followed by a feeling of dizziness. You have been fatally attacked by the true body of the gods, your head has been cut off, and you are dead. The attribute panel sounded the death prompt. At the same time, Chen Ronghuo, who had just escaped from the big tree and appeared in the middle of the team of hundreds of people, took a big step, raised the chaos flying sword, and slashed out with the momentum of sweeping thousands of troops. A huge sword energy that seemed to be able to cut through the sky was slashed out in the middle of the crowd. Boom! The sword energy whistled. Plop, plop, plop. In an instant, I don't know how many players were slashed across their waists by the huge sword energy emitted by Chen Ronghuo before they could react, and died on the spot. Among them, dozens of core third-level players who were closest to Chen Ronghuo were not spared, and all of them were directly eliminated from the game under his sword. One sword kills 100. Even more. It can be said that Chen Ronghuo's sword directly killed half of the team of 300 or 400 people. After the sword, Chen Ronghuo let out a long breath. Then, without stopping, he immediately shrank the huge chaos sword into a flying sword, waved his hand and shot it out, evolving into sword lights, killing the player team that had already been in chaos. Kneel down, all the gods. Kneel down, all the gods. Captain, they are all dead, run away. In the chaos, no player dared to attack Chen Ronghuo. All players fled around like a mob. Chen Ronghuo stood in the middle of the group, controlling the flying sword to kill the prey while showing a contemptuous smile. Then he even had the leisure to open the player forum and chat with the players' discussions. But after opening the forum, Chen Ronghuo found that since the gate of his Xi'an city, there were no real-time videos and pictures related to him on the player forum. Nowadays, reporters are not good. Chen Ronghuo frowned. He has now confirmed his relationship with Li Shui and even got a marriage certificate. He will definitely have children in the future. When he has children, some of his past events can be used as examples for his children. Although, the identity he is using now is the one that the gods kneel to. But with his ability, he does not reveal his identity, just because he does not want to. If he wants to reveal his identity, what can others do to him? But now, his various performances in this battle were not recorded by anyone, which is simply absurd. It seems that I can only do it myself. With the thought in mind, Chen Ronghuo posted the video he had just opened before the battle when he was bored to the player forum. And added a title. After this sword, I feel much more relaxed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 588. Supreme Paparazzi is a player on the Black Cloud Star, a remote star that does not belong to the major Alliance star areas. His original occupation was the number 1 paparazzi on Black Cloud Star. Even after joining the Gods game, he still retained his original hobby of exploring all secrets. While every famous player was posting various arguments on the forum about the battle between Chen Ronghuo and the God-slaying alliance, he was bored and searching for topics of interest to him in various subforums. With this sword strike, my heart suddenly felt much more relaxed. Suddenly, the Supreme Paparazzi discovered a video with such a title. If the content of the video is ordinary, such a title is actually really ordinary and ordinary. So much so that the Supreme Paparazzi feels extremely contemptuous of the poster. But his eyes are extremely sharp. When he was about to glance at this video, he suddenly discovered that the name of the video's publisher was actually being discussed by everyone at this moment. Gods kneel down. Damn it! I have discovered a great treasure. The Supreme Paparazzi quickly clicked on the video while complaining in his heart. The video recording included in the Gods game is extremely clear. It can even give people an immersive feeling. After the Supreme Paparazzi clicked on the video, he felt as if he was in the Xi'an mountains. And when he raised his head, he was shocked to see a group of hundreds of players, like 1,000 troops, rushing towards the small forest where he was. Is this someone from the God-slaying alliance? So, will the gods kneel down? The Supreme Paparazzi was confused and looked around for traces of Chen Ronghuo with his eyes open, but found nothing. Boom! Suddenly, when the Supreme Paparazzi was confused, he suddenly discovered a sharp sword light rushing out of a big tree not far away. The sword light flashed, and after a burly man cut off his head, it suddenly turned into a mighty and huge sword energy. This sword energy swept across, and in the blink of an eye, it cut into pieces the god-slaying team that looked like thousands of troops. Especially the third-level players in that team were all killed on the spot by this sword, and no one was spared. Following him, he saw Chen Ronghuo, rushing out of the big tree, swinging his sword. Facing Chen Ronghuo's extremely sharp flying sword, no one in the field dared to step forward. It seems that all these players have been killed by him to the point of collapse. Native chickens and dogs. This is a real native chicken and tile dog. The God-slaying brigade, which was defined by countless people as being invincible by one person, turned out to be like chickens and dogs when facing Chen Ronghuo. Damn it! After the Supreme Paparazzi paused for a moment, he stopped being surprised. His superb professionalism allowed him to immediately forward the video and give it a subtitle while remaining anonymous. Kill 100 with one sword. I regard the God-slaying alliance as a bunch of chickens and dogs. It is true that the gods are kneeling before them. In today's forum circles, the gods kneeling is the biggest traffic. He didn't need to add too many things to make this video popular in the entire forum in a short period of time. Rock mountains. Swish, brush, brush. The sharp sword light flashed rapidly in the void. Every time it flashed, one or even several players died under Chen Ronghuo's sword. After a while, Chen Ronghuo was the only one left on the entire battlefield. The group is destroyed. Those who participated in the siege of Chen Ronghuo were composed of dozens of third-level players. The other players were at least second level and above in a huge team. They were all wiped out by Chen Ronghuo's sword. Sneak attack and frontal killing are two completely different concepts. Although, facing such a team of hundreds of second and third level players, Chen Ronghuo could destroy them even in a head-on confrontation. But the time required will be extended by at least dozens of seconds, or even more than a minute. Facing the encirclement and suppression by hundreds of thousands of players, Chen Ronghuo didn't have that much time to waste. Level 38 is no longer a problem, but this is not enough. This time, I have to upgrade to level 41 in one fell swoop. Well, shoot some more great videos if you can. These are all things I will talk about when educating my children in the future. Chen Ronghuo thought happily as his eyes swept over the messy battlefield. Then he waved his hand, put away some loot, stepped on the flying sword, and flew in another direction. Chen Ronghuo is not afraid of filming videos by himself, which will expose some of his trump cards. Because his trump card, such as the wood escape technique, will definitely be remembered by the players of the God-slaying alliance after using it. He even estimated that all the big trees in the Xi'an mountains would be in bad luck because of what he had just done. In other words, he only has one chance to use the wood escape technique. However, as a Chaos Warlock, Chen Ronghuo naturally does not only know one kind of wood escape technique. In addition to the wood escape technique, the earth escape technique should also be a good choice. Moreover, once I use unearthed escape, I am afraid that the next players in the God-slaying alliance may not even dare to walk. Attention everyone, the latest news is that the gods have the art of wood escape. With the help of wood escape technique, he just killed a group of 400 players in a sneak attack. Next, if you encounter a big tree, just strangle it. As Chen Ronghuo expected, the news that he had mastered the wood escape technique soon reached the ears of the players in the God-slaying alliance. When these players heard that Chen Ronghuo actually knew the wood escape technique and had a surprise attack that wiped out hundreds of their team members, they were all extremely awed. Could it be any more outrageous? There were hundreds of people, and they were wiped out just like that. Everyone was stunned for a while, and once again felt the power of Chen Ronghuo. And this feeling was deepened to the extreme after Chen Ronghuo himself posted the video of the battle on the player forum, and it was seen and forwarded by many people. Damn, I feel like I've met a god. Can we really deal with this kind of person? Originally I had full confidence in the God-slaying alliance, but now my confidence has been shaken by this terrifying sword. As far as I know, the God-slaying alliance didn't accidentally discover him when the God-slaying alliance showed up this time, but he took the initiative to come out. In other words, the God-slaying alliance wants to kill him, and he also wants to use the people of the God-slaying alliance to level up. How confident is he? The God-slaying alliance is more confident than that. I don't know if you have noticed that in such a long time, the God-slaying alliance has killed countless players of the God-slaying alliance, but his level on the level ranking list has not increased by one level. And according to the information I got, the one who entered the game this time was not the in-game body, but his real body. The real body enters the game and gets double experience points. In addition to his status as the first in the level rankings, and the double experience points for killing players. What does this mean? This means that the gods are suppressing the level and want to get more experience points. In the game, every level up will increase the strength. The fact that the gods have not upgraded yet shows that the pressure brought to him by the God-slaying alliance has not reached the limit he can bear. After this video broke out, a famous analyst immediately analyzed Chen Ronghuo thoroughly and quickly pushed him to the supreme altar. At this moment, many players have already regarded Chen Ronghuo as a true god. The gods are kneeling. Is it really something that our god-slaying alliance can deal with? At this moment, even some high-level members of the god-slaying alliance are a little uneasy. It's just that they have invested too much money in this action, and it is impossible for them to lose without a fight. Oh, this place is nice. In the Xian Mountains, Chen Ronghuo carefully hid his body. After getting rid of the tracking of some players from the god-slaying alliance, he came to a hill with a thought. Looking around from this hill, you can see that there is a small forest around here. According to the ancient book, soon, a team of about 500 players will pass over this hill. Choose this place. Chen Ronghuo thought about the name of the next video. A Feng Shui treasure land, burying and killing 500 people, good riddance. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 589. Boom boom boom. A team of 500 people came from a distance. After seeing a large forest in front of them, they slowed down slightly and attacked one after another. Some punched in the air, some chopped with sword energy, and some controlled fire to burn the forest. In a short while, more than 100 trees growing in the Stone Mountain range were destroyed. After destroying the forest, a group of people rushed forward again. But there were more discussions in the crowd. It has been so long since he found the gods to kneel down. Could he quit the game? I think this is possible. We have mastered his wood escape technique. He has no chance to sneak attack us. We have more and more people. Why doesn't he quit the game and stay here to die? At this moment, many players of the God-killing alliance have lost confidence in killing Chen Ronghuo. After so much time, if Chen Ronghuo wanted to quit the game, he would have quit long ago. But Chen Ronghuo did not do so. Instead, he treated them as prey and kept killing them. The relationship between prey and hunter is reversed. Unconsciously, the team climbed a small hill. A third-level cultivator in the team who was always flying high in the sky looked around and could only see a few low trees in other directions. In addition, he could even see several other teams of the God-slaying alliance. However, he could not find any trace of Chen Ronghuo. According to the information calculated above, the gods should be kneeling near this area. His eyes fell on a few low trees in the distance. Is he here, or has he withdrawn? The God-slaying alliance already knew the map of the Xian Mountains. In addition, they deployed a large number of people in this area, so as long as Chen Ronghuo made a move, they could roughly calculate Chen Ronghuo's next direction. Let's go there. Thinking of this, he pointed to a forest in the distance. He planned to lead the team to destroy that forest as well. What a heinous crime! Suddenly, Chen Ronghuo stood up from the hillside among the players of the God-slaying alliance. The Xian Mountains were originally sparsely populated with trees. In order to kill him, the people of the God-slaying alliance actually wanted to destroy every tree they saw. This was simply an unforgivable crime. If this continues, I'm afraid that the entire Xian Mountains will be completely green. Many articles he has read have talked about how difficult it is to grow a forest in such a rocky place with little nutrition. It requires those big trees with incredible tenacity. So, boom! A broad and vast sword light slashed out from Chen Ronghuo's hand. Full of the amazing murderous intent in his heart, it instantly flashed into the eyes of all the players on the hillside. He wants experience points. But he also needs to find a good excuse. In addition to the people of the God-slaying alliance wanting to kill him, he also wants to find a reliable reason in front of his children in the future. The people of the God-slaying alliance are all bad people. In addition to killing him, they also want to destroy the trees. And he is a forest guard. Gods, kneel down. Earth escape, gods, kneel down, you can actually escape Earth. As soon as the sword light appeared, the hearts of the 500 players on the hillside immediately chilled, as if falling into the abyss. They had all seen the video of Chen Ronghuo killing hundreds of people from the God-slaying alliance with one sword. Without any preparation, few people had the confidence to take on such a sword from Chen Ronghuo. Especially Chen Ronghuo's sword light, which also came with the soul secret technique. This extreme sword light seemed to be able to attract people's souls, making it difficult for people to look away. Many players' thinking became slow, as if a god had moved their time. Boom! Where the sword light rotated 360 degrees past, the surroundings suddenly became blank. There was not even a bloody light. All the players who were swept by the sword light died, transformed into Chen Ronghuo's experience points, and quit the game. This time, the team of 500 people stood relatively loosely. Some of the third-level players did not stand in the center, but were around the team. So after Chen Ronghuo's sword, in addition to more than 200 second-level players, there were also more than 10 third-level players left. Counterattack, counterattack, our support will arrive soon, do our best to drag the gods to their knees. The third-level player in the sky shouted loudly in shock, and at the same time let out a long roar for support. Roar. The roar was so exciting that it spread for dozens of miles. In an instant, all the players centered on this hillside rushed here. At the same time, with the organization of this player, the remaining players on the hillside also turned around as if they had a backbone, and looked at Chen Ronghuo with fearless eyes. If death in the game is real death, naturally not many players would do this. But it is precisely because this is a game, everyone has several lives, so the courage of each player is countless times greater than in reality. On the hillside, after Chen Ronghuo's sword, he looked at the player in the sky, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Crack! As Chen Ronghuo's eyes widened, a lightning bolt suddenly appeared 3 meters above the level 3 player in the sky, winding down. Swish! Accompanied by a scream, purple lightning flashed on the player's body, and a faint smell of burning came out. Then his body disappeared directly when he fell into the air, and he obviously quit the game after death. Sigh. After Chen Ronghuo killed the player with thunder magic, he waved his hand and the chaos flying sword flew out, turning into a sword light as thin as a cicada's wing, flashing in the void at a very fast speed. Every time his sword light flashed, a player would die in the field. At the same time, Chen Ronghuo went all out this time. In addition to the sword light, he also formed seals in his hands and performed the most powerful thunder and lightning magic. One after another, lightning, as he formed seals in his hands, turned into lightning chains, connecting players one by one, running non-stop in the void. All players touched by Chen Ronghuo's lightning chain will twitch. Those with strong defense and strong resistance to lightning may be able to block his lightning chain. Those with poor defense were electrocuted to death on the spot and quit the game. If the first sword is not counted, it can be said that Chen Ronghuo has killed more players with the thunder and lightning technique than with the flying sword technique. Thunder and lightning, the gods are kneeling down, he can even use the thunder and lightning technique. The players of the God-slaying alliance were shocked. They felt that Chen Ronghuo was like a mysterious treasure, and they could always dig out incredible things from him. But these things are naturally good for Chen Ronghuo himself. But it is obviously not so friendly to them. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 590. 300 of the 500 players were swept away by Chen Ronghuo on the spot. The remaining 200 players, after reacting, rushed towards Chen Ronghuo all at once. But as soon as these players moved, Chen Ronghuo's flying sword and the large lightning chain he sent out were like a beating life harvester. Every time they passed by, they would take away a life. There were even third-level players among them. Chen Ronghuo's black hair was flying, and in a short time, he took the lives of dozens of players. Among the remaining more than 100 players, only 4 or 5 third-level players were left. To kill Chen Ronghuo, only third-level players could be dispatched. Second-level players could only play a buffering role and act as a shield for third-level players. It was a fool's dream to rely on second-level players to kill Chen Ronghuo. Apart from other things, they were much worse than third-level players in terms of attack distance alone. Before they could get close, Chen Ronghuo could clear them out. Moreover, as long as Chen Ronghuo's body flew into the air, the second-level players would be powerless and could only watch. But at this point, the players of the God-slaying alliance would obviously not give up. The last 100 or so players, all with red eyes, rushed towards Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo narrowed his eyes slightly, controlled the flying sword and the big lightning lotus, and tried his best to kill those players who were relatively far away. As for those players who were getting closer and closer to him, he ignored them. Boom! Finally, a player approached Chen Ronghuo to a certain range, and immediately punched him through the air. The fist broke through the air, pushed the air away, and instantly arrived in front of Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo raised his left hand and pressed it down in a palm shape. Suddenly, this fist force that was faintly visible in the air was easily extinguished by him. Then he opened his eyes slightly, watching that dozens of players had already approached him. With a flash of fierce light, he suddenly raised his right foot and fell heavily on the ground. Boom! A loud noise suddenly came from the hillside, as if there was an earthquake. The ground shook, and countless sand and stones slid down the not too steep hillside. Some of the hard rock areas even cracked into cracks of varying sizes. This move was made by Chen Ronghuo with his own huge power and the earthquake spell of a chaos sorcerer. It was just that Chen Ronghuo's cultivation was too low. Otherwise, this move would definitely cause the mountain to collapse, the earth to sink, and the abyss to appear. However, even so, when Chen Ronghuo made this move, in an instant, those second-level players who ran to Chen Ronghuo were also frightened, trembling with fear, and hurriedly stabilized their bodies. Boom boom boom. However, Chen Ronghuo did not give them time. When these players stabilized their bodies, he raised his fists and turned his feet rapidly, like a machine gun, punching at the players on all sides of him. One punch after another broke through the air, expelling the air, and almost all of them could see the essence. In the blink of an eye, dozens of punches were blasted out by him. These punches were sent out, and the players around his body were instantly killed. In the previous battle in front of the gate of Xi'an City, he kept many things, but in this battle, he took all these things out. Until Chen Ronghuo stopped and all the fists disappeared, there were only dozens of players left in the field. But these players stood in the distance, neither advancing nor retreating. They were all broken-hearted by Chen Ronghuo's performance and had no intention of resisting. Alas! Chen Ronghuo sighed, stretched out his hand, and a series of purple electric lights suddenly burst out from the chaos flying sword in the distance. With the blessing of the electric light, the flying sword shuttled through the void at a very fast speed, harvesting lives continuously. Devil! Finally, a player could no longer hold on, collapsed and turned around, wanting to escape. In the game, even death is not real death. But facing a killing machine like Chen Ronghuo, this player was still frightened. Hissing. The sword flashed, and a head fell to the ground. Then another one. After a moment, Chen Ronghuo was the only one left in the field. Chen Ronghuo stood on the hillside and looked from afar. At this time, there were players from the God-slaying alliance rushing towards him from all directions. He shook his head slightly, retracted the flying sword, stepped on it, found a direction where the god-slaying alliance's encirclement was weak, and flew straight. While he was on his way, he also posted the video he had just recorded to the player forum, and marked it with a title that had been prepared long ago. Feng Shui Treasure Land, buried 500 people, goodbye. This time was different from the previous time. Chen Ronghuo had never left a message on the player forum before, and no one paid attention to him. But since he uploaded the video of one sword cut suddenly and happily last time, countless players have followed his account. Therefore, as he posted this video, it began to be circulated wildly by players in a short time. 1 kills 500. We really don't understand the world of gods. Wood escape, earth escape, lightning secrets, flying sword secrets, pure warriors air-breaking fists, what else can't the gods kneel down and not know? I was stunned. Could it be that this time, the god-killing alliance formed by the major forces in our universe really hit a wall? One player after another analyzed online. One of the players named I Can Enter the Whole 3 points made a very clear analysis. It's not a big deal. Not to mention these hundreds of players, even if hundreds of thousands of players in the Stone Rock Mountains were all killed, it would be just a drop in the bucket for the major forces of the God-slaying alliance. For players at the second and third levels, the major forces definitely count them in the hundreds of millions. Moreover, when the gods are at a low level, they can fight against hundreds of enemies alone, but when they reach a high level, their amazing combat power will definitely be greatly reduced. According to the previous situation, when the gods are upgraded to the 4th level, most of the 4th level ability users in our universe can log into the game. Similarly, when he is upgraded to the 5th level, the 5th level ability users in our universe can also log into the game. By then, what else can he do to be so strong? I even think that the God-slaying alliance at this time must be thinking that it would be great if they could kill the gods. If not, they don't mind using their own foundation to speed up the upgrade of the gods, thereby promoting the progress of the game. Swish, swish, swish. Chen Rong's fire-controlling flying sword flashed repeatedly in the sky. From the teams of players who had already discovered Chen Ronghuo, a third-level player immediately flew out and rushed towards him quickly. However, Chen Ronghuo's speed was far beyond those third-level players, and he was always able to break out of their encirclement. Not long after, he broke through dozens of barriers and flew into the depths of the Xian Mountains. The players who lost his trace could only continue to move forward, but could not find any trace of him. As for the teams composed of second-level players, they were all very cautious when they were moving, fearing that they would accidentally step on the mines under their feet. In the eyes of these players, Chen Ronghuo, who had mastered the art of earth escape, was like a landmine. When Chen Ronghuo performed the art of wood escape, they could also destroy all the trees in the Xian Mountains. Now Chen Ronghuo could actually perform the art of earth escape, which immediately made them helpless. They couldn't turn over the earth, could they? As for using other means to detect, these second-level players didn't have that ability. Even most third-level players didn't have this ability. For a moment, as Chen Ronghuo revealed his earth escape technique, the God-slaying alliance's plan to encircle and kill Chen Ronghuo came to a standstill. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 591. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. After killing 500 players of the God-slaying alliance with the earth escape technique, Chen Ronghuo immediately controlled the flying sword and quickly headed deep into the Stone Rock Mountains. Along the way, he encountered obstacles, and killed them if he could, and avoided them if he couldn't. Gradually, he actually rushed out of the encirclement of the God-slaying alliance, which was like a steel cage. He rushed all the way to the outside of the encirclement of the God-slaying alliance. Huh! Chen Ronghuo let out a long breath. After such a long time of running around, even he felt a sense of fatigue. But he was not afraid. He took out a few pill bottles from the storage ring, took out a few pills, and threw them into his mouth. The pills melted in his mouth. His spirit and energy also recovered quickly. Then he turned around without stopping, and rushed to kill the players of the God-slaying alliance who were chasing him from behind. Swish, swish, swish. The flying sword flashed repeatedly in the void, accompanied by the death of the players of the God-slaying alliance one by one, and quit the game. He was fast. The people of the God-slaying alliance were all behind him. If he didn't use the kite-flying tactic at this time, he would be sorry to God. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A team of players chased up from a distance. The leader was the commander of the God-slaying alliance in this operation in the game, Yi Tianmu. Beside him, there were 5 quintuplets and hundreds of third-level players. Once these players came over, Chen Ronghuo's kite-flying tactic was useless. Every time he released his flying sword, he would be beaten back by these hundreds of third-level players. Some people even used the binding technique to try to bind his flying sword, making him lose a great help. Chen Ronghuo shook his head. He put away his flying sword and continued to fly deep into the stone rock mountains. The people of the God-slaying alliance chased him closely, but they were no match for Chen Ronghuo's speed. Gradually, he pulled away from him again and lost his trace. After Chen Ronghuo left the combat state and got rid of the pursuit of the players of the God-slaying alliance, he suddenly turned around, made a big circle, and flew to the back of the God-slaying alliance. Has he been lost? After learning that Chen Ronghuo had disappeared again, the responsible persons in the various star regions, such as the Wood Spirit Star region, the Fire Spirit Star region, the 100 Evil Star region, and the Dark Star region, all shook their heads. In fact, at the beginning, when Chen Ronghuo took the initiative to show up, they knew that Chen Ronghuo dared to do this, and he must have the confidence to escape. Some of them even speculated whether Chen Ronghuo had some props that could directly get out of the combat state. But this time, Chen Ronghuo logged into the game with his real body. Even if there was only a slight chance to kill Chen Ronghuo, they were unwilling to give up. But they never thought that Chen Ronghuo did not use any props throughout the whole process, but just relied on his real strength to get rid of their pursuit. And he treated them as prey and killed so many of them. And the cost of organizing this action was quite amazing. After all, the major forces are extremely powerful, but the money they hold in the game of gods is not much. It seems that this operation has failed. But God of the World is ranked first in the ranking list, and he is in the game with his real body. He has killed so many of us. I'm afraid he has almost upgraded to level 41, right? Once he upgrades to level 41, most of the 4th level ability users in our world can also join the game. In this way, it's not a loss. After summarizing the gains and losses of this operation, the major forces immediately ordered to end this mission. As for what will be discussed by countless players in the player forum after the failure of this mission, the major forces don't care. This world will always be the world of the strong. All of this now is just a small fight. When high-level ability users can enter the game, it will be the time for them to officially confront the former gods of the world of the gods. Report: a team has found the traces of God of the World near Xi'an City. He has gone around to our rear and is slaughtering the 2nd-level practitioners behind us. Suddenly, just when the leaders of the major forces had just ordered to end this mission, a piece of news suddenly came up. Hearing this news, the leaders of all the major forces were stunned. No one expected that Chen Ronghuo did not leave the game, but made a big circle and went to the back of their team. How dare you? The leaders of the major forces were furious. But at this time, most of the 3rd-level players in this operation were deep in the Xi'an Mountains and had no time to return to help. And those 2nd-level players faced Chen Ronghuo, and they were obviously only slaughtered mercilessly. They had no way to deal with Chen Ronghuo. Pass the order down, all second-level players, temporarily quit the game. In desperation, the major forces issued this humiliating order one after another. According to their estimation, the experience points accumulated by Chen Ronghuo now are definitely more than enough to break through to the 4th level. If Chen Ronghuo continues to take experience points from their people, he may lose control in the end. Although Chen Ronghuo is still very weak now. But after all, this one is the strongest among the gods in the world of gods in the past. No matter what they say on the surface, in their hearts, no one dares to underestimate Chen Ronghuo. At the same time, in the direction of Xi'an City, Chen Ronghuo stopped a team of hundreds of second-level players. He flashed a sword and pulled everyone into a fighting state. Then he used the flying sword technique and the lightning technique to continuously slaughter these players. Swish. Finally, as the sword light faded, Chen Ronghuo killed the last player on the field. His mind moved, and his consciousness fell on the ancient book, and he began to deduce the positions of other players of the God-slaying alliance who were closest to him. Just by doing this deduction, he was stunned. He found that after he appeared again and slaughtered a large number of players, the Gods Alliance actually ordered all the second-level players under its command near Xi'an City to quit the game. Is it over? Chen Ronghuo felt a little regretful and reluctant. There are definitely not many opportunities like this where a large number of players are given to you to slaughter. There may even be no more in the future. He sighed, waved his sleeves, and flew directly to the direction of Xi'an City without any blood. While flying on the flying sword, he opened his attribute panel. He quickly added the large amount of experience points he had gained this time to his 4 main professions. In an instant, Chen Ronghuo's level began to soar. Level 36. Level 37. Level 38. Level 40. Level 41. Finally, with the infusion of a large amount of experience points, Chen Ronghuo's 4 main professions all broke through to level 41 in one fell swoop. Not only that, after breaking through to level 41, Chen Ronghuo took out the divine power crystal he had obtained from Yu Ningbing before. At the same time, he reversed the pure frost power and began to absorb the power from the divine power crystal. There is a seal in the divine power crystal. But this seal has been broken by itself as he broke through to the 4th level. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 592. Congratulations, your level has reached level 41. Since your level is 2 levels higher than the second player on the level list, you will permanently exit the player level list and permanently receive triple monster killing experience points and triple experience points for completing tasks. When Chen Ronghuo reached level 41, a voice suddenly sounded in Chen Ronghuo's ears. Hearing this voice, Chen Ronghuo, who was absorbing the energy of the divine power crystal, immediately opened the attribute panel and checked the level list on it. After opening the level list, he found that the God's Kneeling, which was originally ranked first, had suddenly disappeared. Not only the God's Kneeling account, but also his second small account, the Almighty Old Monster, disappeared. Now the first place in the level list has been replaced by the original 3rd place Ming Shen. Finally succeeded. Chen Ronghuo shook his head. Exiting the level list was not his goal, but getting a reward of 3 times the experience points was very good. It was self-evident for him to choose between fame and substantial benefits. However, compared to Chen Ronghuo's calmness, the faces of those who had been paying attention to him changed when they found that he had disappeared from the ranking list. No one knew what had happened. What happened? How did the gods kneel leave the ranking list? What happened? Didn't the God-slaying alliance fail to suppress the gods kneel this time? How could it be so sudden? Not only the gods kneel, but also the second-ranked almighty old monster on the ranking list disappeared. I remember the last time, when blood rained down from the sky, the almighty old monster and the gods kneel both upgraded to level 35. Many people said that they must have some relationship. This time they both disappeared together. It seems that this is probably the case. Not necessarily. This time the gods kneel killed so many players in the God-slaying alliance in one fell swoop and disappeared after breaking through to level 41. The almighty old monster did nothing and didn't level up, and just disappeared. By the way, do you think that after the gods kneel killed so many people in the God-slaying alliance, they became careless and were ambushed by the almighty old monster who came over, and then the two died together? On the forum, players were talking about it, and no one knew what happened. Even the top leaders of the God-slaying alliance were puzzled. I don't know why Chen Ronghuo, who was obviously in the limelight, suddenly quit the ranking list. Is it really as some people speculated, that the gods met the almighty monster and both died together? If this is true, it would be great. At the same time, the gods of the past were puzzled after seeing Chen Ronghuo quit the player ranking list. Boom. Somewhere, Ming Shen, who had just ranked first in the player ranking list, killed a demonized life with a punch, and frowned. Dead? It shouldn't be. It's time to take back the foundation. If you don't hurry up, it may be too late. Ming Shen murmured. Chen Ronghuo was far ahead in the ranking list, and now he disappeared suddenly, which made him feel a huge pressure. In addition to Ming Shen, in other places in the game of the gods, players I Am a Monster, rich people, Lord of Thunder and others have also made some decisions secretly. Like Ming Shen, they also felt the strong pressure from Chen Ronghuo. Swoosh. Chen Ronghuo drove the flying sword and quickly returned to Xi'an City. After arriving at the gate of Xi'an City, he immediately retracted his light, dropped his flying sword, and walked in through the gate of Xi'an City. When he came out of Xi'an City before, he also walked through the main gate. Only in this way can he avoid being punished. As for those players who jumped off the wall of Xi'an City, those who died were all gone, and those who survived would be punished unless they did not return to Xi'an City or even go to other cities in the Shenlong Empire. As for what the punishment is, Chen Ronghuo, who had changed his appearance and clothes, glanced at the gate of Xi'an City. There were many more soldiers than before, and a smile appeared on his lips. After entering Xi'an City, Chen Ronghuo wandered around the city, and in a short while, he came to a tea house in the city. This tea house is called Yajia Tea House, and it is elegantly decorated. Chen Ronghuo stood at the bottom of the tea house and looked at the tea house with open windows at the top. Of course, because he was standing at the bottom and too close to the tea house, he could not see anything. However, Chen Ronghuo, who had broken through to the 4th level and further unlocked the ability of the ancient book, was able to deduce that at this time in the tea house, Shi Yushan, the city lord of Xi'an City, was enjoying tea. Shi Yushan was the most powerful NPC in Xi'an City. But NPCs are also people. In addition to following certain rules, they can do whatever they want on weekdays. And Shi Yushan, in addition to beauty, likes tea tasting the most. Chen Ronghuo walked around the tea house twice, and from time to time, without anyone noticing, he threw out the formation flags he made in his spare time. As soon as those formation flags landed, they would merge into the ground, and no trace could be found. After throwing out a dozen formation flags, he wrapped himself with soul power, quietly disappeared, and flew into the tea house through the window. At the same time, he activated the dozen formation flags he had just thrown out. The formation he set up with those formation flags had only one purpose, which was to hide the movement in this tea house. Apart from that, it had no other use, so there was no strange phenomenon after the formation was formed. Don't move. As soon as he entered the tea house, Chen Ronghuo enlarged the chaos flying sword and stabbed it across the neck of Shi Yushan, who was leisurely sipping tea under the service of a tea house maid. When Shi Yushan's two guards saw Chen Ronghuo, they immediately shouted. But Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed with black light, and the two guards were directly knocked to the ground by him using the soul secret technique. In addition, the maid who served Shi Yishan tea, and another maid who played a song not far away, were also knocked to the ground by Chen Ronghuo at the same time. You. Shi Yishan felt the coldness on his neck and didn't even dare to breathe. Don't move, don't make a sound, don't worry, as long as you don't move, I won't kill you with the sword. Chen Ronghuo said lightly. Shi Yishan himself is actually a 4th level cultivator, at the same level as Chen Ronghuo. But in terms of strength, he is far from Chen Ronghuo, who has just broken through to the 4th level. Looking at Shi Yishan, who was obedient and dared not move, Chen Ronghuo stretched out his left hand, looked down at him, and pressed it on Shi Yishan's forehead. NPC attribute of the Lord of Xi'an City add 1. After a moment, Chen Ronghuo's mind moved, and he got what he wanted from Shi Yishan. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 593. Shi Yishan was sitting on the chair and saw Chen Ronghuo putting his left hand on his head. He had no idea what Chen Ronghuo was doing. Especially when Chen Ronghuo's left hand touched his forehead back and forth, it made him feel that Chen Ronghuo was a pervert. Only. The cold and sharp sword blade was placed on his neck. Even if Chen Ronghuo was a pervert, he could only accept it. The NPC attribute of the Lord of Xi'an City is add 1. After a moment, Chen Ronghuo raised his eyebrows and took out another attribute he wanted from Shi Yuxuan. In order not to attract Shi Yishan's attention, he took out the attributes from his body and then returned them. In this way, more than a minute later, Chen Ronghuo had surprisingly touched out all the NPC attributes on Shi Yishan without him noticing. Receive. After doing this, Chen Ronghuo made a move and directly included these attributes into the attribute space. You. As these attributes were taken away, Shi Yishan's expression suddenly changed, his eyes fixed on Chen Ronghuo, obviously sensing something. Chen Ronghuo used the power of ancient books to identify Shi Yishan's attributes. It was discovered that the restraints on Shi Yishan had disappeared, and the rules of heaven and earth had not reinfused new NPC attributes into his body. It seems that 80,000 years have passed in the world of gods, and some of the previous rules have changed. Of course, Shi Yishan is just a low-level NPC. If it were replaced by those high-level NPCs, it is still unclear whether this would still be the case. With this thought, Chen Ronghuo moved his left hand, landed on himself, and began to integrate the NPC attributes he had just taken out from Shi Yishan into his body. This NPC attribute seems to be particularly easy to integrate into the human body. A total of 10 of these attributes were all absorbed by Chen Ronghuo in just a blink of an eye. After absorbing these attributes, Chen Ronghuo immediately felt that a new NPC exclusive page had opened up on the attribute panel. He opened the page and saw that it clearly listed a series of tasks that he, as the Lord of Xi'an City, could issue to players, as well as the rewards he could provide. Of course, based on his knowledge, these rewards were rubbish. Few things worked for him. Thinking about it, Chen Ronghuo set his sights on Shi Yishan. My lord, I. Shi Yishan looked frightened. After discovering that Chen Ronghuo had actually erased the rules and regulations on him, he realized that he might be far less evil this time. If I say I won't kill you, I won't kill you. Chen Ronghuo smiled, took out a white narrow-mouth bottle, uncorked it and said, "This bottle has the function of nourishing the soul. You can escape your soul here. If you have the opportunity in the future, I will find a new body for you." Grown-ups. Shi Yishan looked stiff and full of fear. Chen Ronghuo frowned. Shi Yishan is the master of a city in the Shenlong Empire. Even though Xi'an City was incomparably small compared to the entire Shenlong Empire, he himself still left the seal of life soul in the Shenlong Empire. Once he dies, the people of the Shenlong Empire will have a reaction, which will be detrimental to his next plan. Good. Seeing Chen Ronghuo's sharp gaze, Shi Yishan felt terrified. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind. Immediately, in front of Chen Ronghuo, he used a secret technique to escape his soul from his body and into a white narrow-mouth bottle. Although this will be restricted by Chen Ronghuo, there is still a small glimmer of hope after all. He is afraid of death. I feel that even if I am trapped in a bottle for decades, or even longer, it is better than immediate death. Chen Ronghuo looked at Shi Yishan's stiff body, nodded, corked the narrow-mouth bottle, then took out a talisman and put it on it, put it away, and pointed at Shi Yishan's body. Call out. A wisp of grey fire quietly fell on Shi Yishan's body, burning with a breath. Even with the body of Shi Yishan, a fourth-level cultivator, it was difficult to compete with this grey fire. After a moment, this ray of fire burned Shi Yishan's body until not even a trace of ashes was left. But the storage ring Shi Yishan wore on his hand remained. Chen Ronghuo shook his body, and his body suddenly transformed into the appearance of Shi Yishan himself. Even the length of his hair was exactly the same. Then he stretched out his hand and took Shi Yishan's storage ring into his hand. The power of his soul surged and opened it. He found a new piece of clothing that Shi Yishan had never worn and put it on himself. In this way, no one would dare not believe him when he said that he was the lord of Xi'an City. Especially for NPCs, judging their identity has always been based on their respective NPC marks. Then Chen Ronghuo opened Shi Yishan's storage ring. He took out a pen and paper and the city lord's seal. After writing something on the paper, he covered it with the city lord's seal. Suddenly the whole paper became slightly golden. This is the unique anti-counterfeiting effect of the city master's seal. At the same time, the city lord seal can only be used by the real city lord with NPC attributes. In the hands of others, it is useless. Call. After doing this, Chen Ronghuo put away the city lord seal and other items, then raised his hand and swept them in the tea room. His sweep brought with him the breeze and some soul power, instantly waking up all the people in the field who had just fainted. Master, Master, we are guilty of failing to protect you. I hope you will punish us. After waking up, after the initial confusion, everyone, especially Shi Yishan's two guards, saw Chen Ronghuo changed his clothes. They were all very nervous and guessed what had just happened. How would their master punish them? Waste. Chen Ronghuo snorted. He had changed almost exactly like Shi Yishan at this time. This was not only the appearance, but also the throat, lungs, and other organs related to voice. So this also made his voice no different from Shi Yishan's. After hearing Chen Ronghuo's reprimand, everyone lowered their heads and dared not say much. It was silent for more than 10 seconds like the prelude to a storm. When the pressure in the hearts of several people was getting bigger and bigger, Chen Ronghuo said, "Remember, nothing happened just now." Yes. Several people breathed a sigh of relief and quickly agreed. In addition, Chen Ronghuo immediately looked at the two guards and said, "Take this notice and post it on the city wall immediately. And notify the guards to bring all the players from the other world who jumped out of the city wall today to the Jinbei training ground." Yes. The two guards immediately took the order, took the newly written notice that Chen Ronghuo had just put on the table, left the tea house, and rushed straight to the gate of Xi'an City. Seeing the two guards leave, Chen Ronghuo's eyes flickered. A moment later, he walked down the tea house alone, and quietly collected the formation he had just arranged, left the tea house, and walked straight to the Jinbei training ground of Xi'an City. He will not use the identity of the Lord of Xi'an City for too long. But when he uses it, he must make good use of the rights that can be exercised by this identity. At this moment, a large group of players from the God-slaying alliance who had previously chased Chen Ronghuo were rushing from outside Xi'an City to Xi'an City. "Boss, we violated the rules of Xi'an City and jumped directly off the city wall." I don't know how Xi'an City will punish us. Don't worry, we didn't kill anyone in the city, we just jumped off the city wall, the punishment won't be too severe. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 594. Chen, where are you? Chen Ronghuo opened the attribute panel and saw that Li Shui had sent him a message in the friend column. Chen Ronghuo was silent for a moment, knowing that Li Shui had probably guessed something when she sent him such a message at this time. At the same time, he saw that the name of the gods kneeling disappeared from the player level rankings and was worried about him. The means he showed in this action were very similar to some of the means he had shown in front of Li Shui before. In addition, last time, after he killed so many Yuning Bing, blood rain fell from the sky, and the gods kneeling was greatly improved, but he himself did not change much, and he did not even enter the rankings. Li Shui could not help but feel puzzled. After thinking about it, he sent a message, I'm in Xi'an City, don't worry about me, there are some things, I will go back and tell you. He made a decision and planned to confess to Li Shui and his family that he was the biggest boss in the gods game after quitting Yuxihao. He didn't say it before because he was worried that it would be leaked out accidentally at this time and cause danger. But now, he is not afraid of anyone else on Earth, so he doesn't have to worry about anything. As for the big forces in the universe where Earth is, he is even less worried. Earth is his home planet. When he officially returned to Earth, he once struck a bright light in the channel between the two worlds and changed some things. It is almost impossible for those strong people in the universe to find Earth. In addition, he left some hidden tricks, so even if Earth was found, he didn't have to worry too much. In a lush forest, Li Shui, who was fighting monsters with Chen Xiao, got Chen Ronghuo's reply and was relieved. As Chen Ronghuo thought, she really guessed that Chen Ronghuo was the gods kneeling. So when she saw that the gods kneeling disappeared from the player level rankings, her heart immediately skipped a beat and she was distracted. In Xi'an City, Chen Ronghuo walked quickly towards the Qianbei parade ground of Xi'an City. After replying to the message, he looked at his attribute panel again. Before, when he was outside the city, he only added experience points to his 4 main professions. All 4 main professions were upgraded to level 41. But his 4 secondary professions were still at level 35 and had not been upgraded. However, after leaving the level rankings, he added a lot of experience points to these professions, and finally made these professions enter the 4th level. In addition to the power he got from Yuningbing's Divine Power Crystal, his 8 professions have all been upgraded to level 47 in a short time. So far, the power of the Divine Power Crystal that broke the seal this time was completely absorbed by Chen Ronghuo. However, there is still a deeper seal in this Divine Power Crystal. It's just that next time, if he wants to unlock this deeper seal, he must wait until he breaks through to the 6th level, not the 5th level. I hope to break through to the 5th level as soon as possible. There is a relatively large watershed between the 4th level and the 5th level. If he can break through to the 5th level, Chen Ronghuo's strength will also have a big surge. While muttering to himself, Chen Ronghuo walked into the training ground in the north of Xi'an City. This is where the guards of Xi'an City usually train. Chen Ronghuo disguised himself as the mayor of Xi'an City, so naturally no one dared to stop him. Even when he came, the military officer in charge of guarding here hurried over. At the same time, a large number of players also rushed to the gate of Xi'an City. These players are almost all players in the God-slaying alliance who are chasing Chen Ronghuo. Some of them use the teleportation array to teleport directly to some leveling points near Xi'an City. For such players, the guards of Xi'an City ignored them and let them go. However, those players who violated the rules of Xi'an City and jumped directly from the city wall of Xi'an City were stopped by the guards. On the wall of Xi'an City, there is a notice written by Chen Ronghuo himself. The notice is about the punishment of the players who violated the rules of Xi'an City this time. At the same time, this is also a notice that contains some rules of this world. Any player who has violated the rules of Xi'an City before will react and light up when approaching the city gate. There are tens of thousands of players who have violated the rules. However, because Chen Ronghuo had previously taken a detour to intercept them, most of the second-level players have quit the game. Therefore, hundreds of third-level players headed by Yi Tianmu were the first to bear the brunt and became the target of Chen Ronghuo. "Sergeant, I wonder how the city lord plans to punish us." Yi Tianmu smiled and secretly handed some gold coins to the sergeant in charge of arresting them. He did not intend to escape. Because once he escaped, he would not only be unable to enter Xi'an City, but also the entire city of the Shenlong Empire. The soldier took the cloth bag with gold coins, weighed it, put it in his pocket and said, "The city lord has said that when you are found, you will be taken directly to the parade ground in the north of the city. As for the punishment, he did not say. But what you did is not serious, and the punishment is not severe, so you don't have to worry too much." "Okay, if that's the case, it would be great." Yi Tianmu nodded repeatedly, and led his men, under the supervision of a team of soldiers, to the parade ground in the north of Xi'an City. "Sir." In the training ground, Chen Ronghuo was standing with his hands behind his back. A military officer suddenly came over and said, "Those players who violated the rules of our Xi'an City have been brought here. There are 372 of them, all of whom are level 3 players. As for those level 2 players, they seem to have left our world. It will take some time before they can all be arrested and brought to justice." Chen Ronghuo turned around, glanced at the military officer and said, "Put all of them in handcuffs and shackles like serious criminals, and bring them to me." "Yes." The officer's eyes flashed with surprise, but he did not dare to neglect it. He hurried away and announced Chen Ronghuo's order. Jumping off the city wall is not a small crime. But the Shenlong Empire has preferential treatment for players. Players jumping off the city wall is really just a small crime. Generally, being locked up for 1 or 2 days is considered a severe punishment. Especially this time, there are tens of thousands of players. It is even more difficult to punish them for committing a crime together. Imprisoning tens of thousands of people is a big project. "Sir, what's going on? Why would the city lord give such an order?" Outside the training ground, hundreds of players, led by Yi Tianmu, all looked very different after being handcuffed and shackled by a group of soldiers. These handcuffs and shackles are secret treasures made of special materials that can suppress the power of practitioners. After they put on these things, their strength dropped to the same level as first-level practitioners. At this time, if someone is not good for them, they can only be slaughtered. I don't know, but it's probably just that the city lord wants to give you a warning. As long as you are honest and submissive, there shouldn't be any problem." The soldier who had taken the lead hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, "Landing 300 years in advance." Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 595. Chapter 591. Chapter 589. All heads fell to the ground. Crash. 372 players were led by sergeants to the north campus of Xi'an City. Chen Ronghuo stood on the high platform of the school ground, looking at the more than 300 players who had been chasing him before, and couldn't help but smile. The cycle of cause and effect leads to unhappy retribution. In fact, there is nothing wrong with these more than 300 people. It's just that their birth determines that they must obey the orders of their superiors. This puts Chen Ronghuo on the opposite side. "You are players from another world." Chen Ronghuo stretched out his hand, pointed upward, and said, you must also know that there are orders from above. As long as you do not commit too serious prohibitions in the city, all other matters will be dealt with lightly. Hearing what Chen Ronghuo said, the group of players below who were handcuffed and shackled all breathed a sigh of relief. Having been put on this thing before, they were really worried that the city lord would not act according to common sense. This time, more than 10,000 of you violated the ban of Xi'an City and jumped from the city wall to Xi'an City, which violated our Xi'an City rules. I have received orders for this, and all punishments will be determined by me. Chen Ronghuo was silent for a moment, then continued, so I decided not to blame the players who died after jumping off the city wall. The city lord is magnanimous. Many players echoed. However, in fact, most cities have such a policy for players who commit misdemeanors. As long as he dies, he will not be held accountable. Chen Ronghuo's approach is no different from other cities. But they were under the eaves and could only lower their heads. At this time, Chen Ronghuo continued, for those players who have not yet returned to Xi'an City, I also decided to forget about it. As soon as he said this, all the players, led by Yi Tianmu, immediately raised their heads, feeling a little surprised. I also felt that the city lord who put handcuffs and shackles on them before they even met seemed to be quite easy to talk to. The city lord is wise. Many players continued to echo. As for you. Having said this, Chen Ronghuo paused slightly, the entire responsibility for their crimes will be borne by you and others. Next, I will personally serve as the executive officer and execute the punishment of beheading you to remove your sins. What? Are all others innocent? We take the punishment on someone else's behalf? And you want to execute it yourself and behead us as punishment? In an instant, Yi Tianmu and others were all shocked, sensing Chen Ronghuo's strong malice. Fortunately, they thought the city lord was easy to talk to before, so they agreed. But he didn't expect that the lord of Xi'an City was basically a demon who ate people without spitting out their bones. Brush. Chen Ronghuo's figure flickered and fell directly from the high platform in front of a group of third-level players on the school field. After exiting the level rankings, you can gain 3 times experience points by killing monsters. In addition, he is entering the game in person at this time, and these people are all players. When the experience points are doubled, the experience points he gets by killing these people can almost be compared with killing ordinary players of the same level as these people. It was 12 times as powerful as wild monsters, how could he let it go? Sorry. Suddenly, when all the players' expressions changed drastically and they felt the deep anger, Chen Ronghuo's voice turned into wisps and reached their ears as a sound that only they could hear. If I weren't practicing a special skill that required a lot of fresh blood, I wouldn't have done anything to you. So, to express my apology, before I kill you, I will give you a free message. A piece of news related to the inheritance of a certain god from the past. What? Suddenly, after hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, the players who were originally angry looked at him with their eyes widened. Some players even started breathing heavily. How important is this to the inheritance of the gods? Only. There are also a large number of players and something doesn't feel right. The city lord in front of me is just a small city lord in the Shenlong Empire. Can you believe his words? How could he know such secret things? At this moment, Chen Ronghuo seemed to know what some people were thinking, and said calmly, of course, you don't have to believe me. In fact, let alone you, even I don't really believe the news, ha ha ha. Is this a hidden mission? However, after hearing what Chen Ronghuo said, some people's hearts suddenly moved, as if they had thought of something. These people are all level 3 players. In today's environment, all tier 3 players are players who have just joined the game after this game update. For half a year, they could only gain experience points by killing monsters in the game, and could not receive a single mission. but it was precisely because of this that they thought that it was because they and others did not meet the requirements that they did not receive the mission. Only from Chen Ronghuo's mouth could he get a hint of information related to the hidden mission. For a moment, all the players held their breath, fearing that they would not be able to hear what Chen Ronghuo said. Remember, I will only say the next words once. With a weird smile on Chen Ronghuo's face, he turned the words he had prepared into whispers and spread them to the ears of the players. Among the three major forces, the Shenlong Empire, the Taishu Empire, and the Five Elements Alliance, there is one in a place of chaos. The place where the gods are passed down is in the land of chaos. If you are willing to look for it, you can go there to find a bandit group called Tianfeng Bandits. Then you may be able to get some information from their leader, Tianfeng Sword Su Shang. Of course, I still say that I can't guarantee the authenticity of the news. This is exactly the standard process of most game tasks. All the players felt their breathing become heavy involuntarily. Crack, crack. At this moment, Chen Ronghuo suddenly stretched out his hand, and with the power of chaos, he reversed the power of rock and constructed a big knife evolved from rock in his hand. He held the big knife and slashed forward without any hesitation. With a swish, as he slashed, the heads of dozens of players in front of him were chopped off and flew into the sky. Swish, swish, swish. Then he turned into an expressionless look, waving the rock knife, and swung the knife down again at the other players in the field. Show mercy, what is that? Experience points are serious. However, facing Chen Ronghuo's big knife, although the players showed fear on their faces, if you look closely, you can still see a hint of excitement in the depths of their eyes. They were really excited. They were players, and death was like in the real world, permanent death. Resurrection was their biggest asset. And the news that Chen Ronghuo told them was obviously much more important than their death. Although, with so many of them, it was almost impossible for any one of them to get the inheritance of the gods. But as long as they reported this message, they would definitely get a lot of rewards. So, although Chen Ronghuo killed them, some people were secretly grateful to Chen Ronghuo. Swish. As the last knife fell, the entire training ground was empty, and Chen Ronghuo waved his hand, and the rock knife in his hand was put away by him. As his eyes swept over, all the soldiers on the training ground lowered their heads. Today, their city lord looked very wrong. This ruthless spirit of chopping off dozens of heads with one knife made them all worry that Chen Ronghuo would chop off their heads if they disagreed.